Hello everyone, and welcome to my little corner of the internet. If you've been on my channel before and have seen some of my previous videos, you've probably noticed that watercolor is one of my favorite mediums. I've been doing a lot of watercolors for my National Park series, and I've also been doing other paintings just for fun. I haven't made all of those into videos, but if you go to my DeviantArt page, you can see there are a few there that haven't been part of videos. I just find watercolor to be a very relaxing medium to use, and there's something about the way you can't really control where the paint is going that's slightly frustrating and refreshing to me. It's a nice change from the rest of my life where I am, in fact, trying to control everything. There are also other benefits to watercolor. It's easy to clean up. The paintings seem to come together a lot faster than most of my digital cartoons projects do, and there seems to be a larger margin of error. Drawing people can be very unforgiving, and it can start to look downright disturbing when something goes wrong. But landscapes tend to look pretty even if they aren't perfect. You know, if all else fails, you can just call it an abstract painting. Plus, as much as I try not to care about it, it's an undeniable fact that my landscapes are far more popular on DeviantArt than any of my cartoons. The difference is so extreme that it's actually quite ridiculous, and every time I post a cartoon I think, is it really that bad? But anyway, the bottom line is I don't plan to give up on watercolor anytime soon, but there are some issues that I have with that medium, and a lot of what I like is a bit of a double-edged sword. Its ability to rehydrate can be useful, especially if you're like me and you decide to just leave your painting and all your supplies out for half an hour while you walk the dog and do household chores for no particular reason. But this can also be really annoying when you're trying to layer color. Even if you let the first layer dry, it can get wet again as soon as it comes into contact with more paint, and this especially becomes a problem when the colors start to mix. And you can't control it. The paint won't always stay where you put it, which can quickly turn into an issue. Watercolor paints also seem to be comparatively expensive, and the ones that I have come in very small tubes. With all this in mind, I considered switching to a different painting medium, but when it comes down to it, I really do like watercolor. Out of all the painting mediums, it's the one that interests me the most, and it's the one that I have the most desire to put in the time to improve with, even though it does have its challenges. Recently, though, I came across a new idea online somewhere, I don't really remember where, but it seemed like a great idea, using diluted acrylic in lieu of watercolor. For this experiment, I poked around my house until I found the collection of cheap acrylics that I'd collected as a small art-obsessed child. And I got these from the craft store years ago. They aren't really artist quality paints, so my expectations for them were not too high, but I figured that it was a good place to start. I selected 9 different colors because that was pretty much all I had, save for a few bottles of metallic paints and pastel colors that I figured I wouldn't really need. This brand of paint is called Craft Smart, and the colors I used were turquoise, grass green, bright yellow, brown, bright red, white, black, and bright blue. It also turns out that there was another bottle of paint mixed in from the company Apple Barrel, and that was the color King's Gold. I'm pretty sure that one was pilfered directly from one of my parents' classrooms, because I don't remember my local craft store carrying that brand. Like with my watercolors, I figured I could mix any other colors I needed. I also found another paint palette, I guess, for mixing paints while I was looking for the acrylics, and this one is made out of ceramic, which I hope will be better than the plastic one I've been using. For brushes, I used my usual watercolor brushes, since once the paint is diluted with water, the consistency should be the same. The acrylic did have a different, more plasticky consistency than the watercolor, which of course is to be expected since acrylic is plastic-based, but when the paint was diluted, it didn't seem like the paper picked up as much of it. Compared to watercolor, it actually seemed to repel the paint. I think I probably would have had an easier time with better quality or at least newer paints. The black paint was especially bad. The pigment had kind of solidified into flakes that were floating in liquid, which was not ideal, but it did work. Another problem I had was that I was using watercolor paper. I don't know how much that affects the final product, but I could have used something that was intended for acrylic. I decided that I didn't like how this painting was looking, so I just let it dry and went back over it with undiluted paint and actual acrylic brushes instead of watercolor brushes. Watercolor brushes are softer and fluffier, I guess, than brushes that are meant for oil or acrylic, which tend to be a bit stiffer. and that worked much, much better. There are a lot of things I do like about acrylic, specifically that it can be layered and that the colors look much darker and more opaque. They don't have that faded look that watercolor can get. Both of these qualities make it easier to add depth to the painting, and I also really liked that because the paint was opaque, I could paint the boat in this picture on later. And all in all, I don't think that I'll be switching over completely to acrylic paints. I really do like watercolor, but acrylic has its benefits too. One thought I had was to combine the two mediums. For example, I could have done the water and the grass in this painting in watercolor and the boat and the trees in acrylic. I don't know how that would look, but it might be something to try in the future, since I have this set of really old paints that I should use up. And this also inspired me to do some more acrylic paintings. I don't know if I should continue doing them in my watercolor sketchbook, but I will look into that, and I will probably be posting some more videos about this in the future. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment for more videos like this. Bye!